welcome to Indra's Web. I'm Dan Pompili, located here in Youngstown, Ohio, a city made famous by steel and the mafia. I have been in the tarantula hobby since January of 2019, when I got my first two tarantulas, GBB that I named Indra, and Lasiodora parahabana that I named Anansi. I got them both from Fear Not Tarantulas, which makes sense because I got into the hobby to overcome a lifelong fear of spiders. I used to have horrible nightmares about them. I can still remember one pretty vividly that I had 25 years ago. So then I decided to just start learning about them, if only to discover if there were actually any spiders here in Northeast Ohio that I needed to worry about. Spoiler alert, there really aren't. No, not even brown recluse. We'll get to that probably in another episode. But after following a few Facebook pages, one day in early January 2019, I came across a beautiful blue tarantula. It was a piece of Letharia metallica. I do not yet have one. I learned that that was probably not the right spider to start my collection with, but given how beautiful I thought it was, I figured it was probably time for me to overcome my fear and start keeping a spider or two. That just seems so long ago, because now here I am at almost 30. So after months and months of debating it, I decided to do this YouTube channel because I think it's important for newcomers to the hobby, and just those without as much experience, people like me, to kind of see that you're not alone. Keeping tarantulas, so far in my experience, is pretty simple and straightforward, but there are nuances, there will be challenges, and there will be mistakes, small and great. I'll record my regular husbandry here, things like rehousings like we're gonna do today, and we'll do some feeding videos, and I'll even share some of my worst mistakes with you so that you understand how mistakes happen, how to avoid them, and what to do when you can't avoid them. Sometimes you can fix them, other times you can't. For those coming to my channel with a bit more experience, I hope to provide some interesting tidbits of information, or at least entertain you. I also hope that you'll help me become a better keeper by commenting on my videos, and that will in turn help my viewers become better keepers too. So before we go on with today's activities, I wanted to share a piece of writing with you. I'm a bit of a spiritual fellow, and I do like Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, and Hinduism. But this piece of writing will help you understand why I named this channel as I did, and why I chose Indra as my GBB's name. It comes from a book called Vermeer's Hat, the 17th Century and the Dawn of the Global World by Canadian historian Timothy Brook. In it, he explores how world trade routes developed in the 17th century through the lens of paintings by the Dutch painter Johann Vermeer. To explain the interconnectedness that defines how the world became what it is, he uses the metaphor of Indra's net. Brook wrote, "When Indra fashioned the world, he made it as a web, and at every knot in the web is tied a pearl. Everything that exists or ever has existed, every idea that can be thought about, every datum that is true, every dharma in the language of Indian philosophy, is a pearl in Indra's net. Not only is every pearl tied to every other pearl by virtue of the web on which they hang, but on the surface of every pearl is reflected every other jewel on the net. Everything that exists in Indra's web implies all else that exists." Okay, so today we're going to be rehousing my Phormictopus species South Hispaniola. I regret that I had some technical difficulties while shooting and editing this video. I was going to also rehouse my T. Vaughan sling, but that footage didn't carry over. And also I found while editing that the actual audio from both of those videos did not carry over. So you're going to see the footage of me rehousing the Phormictopus, but I'll be speaking over top of that. And regrettably, we won't get to see the T-Boggans rehousing. It was pretty uneventful, but there was some good information about the species. Maybe I'll share it with you another time. After that, we will get back here and I will share some final thoughts and some thank yous. See you then. Okay, so here we are. We're going to rehouse my Phormictopus species South Hispaniola. Always make sure when rehousing to have your catch cup and something to cut off any avenue of retreat, like a piece of cardboard or a thick envelope or something like that. Have your tongs, a couple of paint brushes to encourage the tea to move where you want it to go. So you can see here that this is a pretty decent sized tarantula, and it's certainly outgrown this enclosure. You can see here also that it's a little bit spunky. It can tell something's going on. I'm really hoping here that it's not going to bolt on me. What I want to go ahead and do is just hold the cup over her while I try and get this this little piece of wood and foliage out of here to give myself more room to work. Just proceed patiently. If it looks like the tea isn't going to cooperate at all, it's best to just put the lid back on, let them calm down, and try the rehousing again later. It's better that than having a Phormictopus on the run. You can see she just climbed right up into the catch cup, which made things a lot easier on me. So I'm just going to go ahead and put her in the catch cup over here into the new enclosure, and she's not too high up into the cup, so I'm going to unscrew the top here, and we're going to try and just nudge her out, get her to turn around and go in the enclosure. I'm going to try using my tongs first. She doesn't seem like she really appreciates that. Get a little bit of threat pose. She's not being too crazy though, and she's certainly not bolting out of the cup and out of the enclosure here, so I'm grateful for that. I'm going to try the paintbrush now. She's a little more receptive. She's backing up a bit. We had to play around here, but in the end, between the paintbrush and the tongs, I got her to back out. Just go right into her new enclosure and hang out right there in the corner by the cholla wood and the fake foliage there. Now in the new enclosure, I don't yet have a water dish. I will put a water dish in after the video. I highly recommend using water dishes. A lot of people say that they're not necessary, that tarantulas get their moisture from their food. Logic would just dictate that it makes sense to give them an available water source. And beyond that, I have seen my tarantulas both drinking water, and if their dish happens to be empty, I see them hovering over the water dish, looking for it or waiting for it. So they do appreciate the water dish. I'm giving it more depth of substrate here, mostly for its safety, because you want to make sure that they don't have too much distance between the top of the substrate and the top of the enclosure in case they climb up and fall. You want them to not fall very far and have a soft landing. This was the tarantula that motivated my second ever order from Fear Not, along with a Brachypelma bami and a Nandu chromatus. I have not confirmed it with a molt yet, but I believe it's a female. Her name is Arianrod. Arianrod was the Celtic goddess of fertility, rebirth, and the weaving of cosmic time and fate. She's basically the Celtic equivalent of Indra in that way, and so it makes sense that in Celtic folklore, she's associated with, among other things, spiders. It seems like there's more clarity around that kind of folklore than there is surrounding the organization of the Phormictopus genus right now. This species is believed to be the same as species green femur and green femur gold carapace, according to a paper published last year. I believe it was called the genus Phormictopus and its hobby nomenclature. I'll put a link to it in the description.
According to the World Spider Catalog, there are 14 species of Phormictopus, and species green femur and South Hispaniola are not listed among them. So right now the experts believe that these quote-unquote species are actually color variants of one of them. It was suggested that they might be color forms of Phormictopus cancerides, but the spermatheca are significantly different, so it can't be. So right now we just do not know where they fit in. Now these spiders, they come from the very south of the island of Hispaniola near a city called Barahona in the Dominican Republic. And this is true for all the green varieties of Phormictopus. She is fast and feisty. I definitely would not want this one on the loose, and believe me, she has tried. They do generally wait for prey to approach, while some other Phormictopus are known to chase their prey. That's at least what I've seen with mine, although if the prey is close, she has attacked the tongs before, trying to get to it. Her feeding response is generally highly aggressive, and I think that's pretty much true for most specimens. While many Phormictopus, like my Pioratus, like to burrow, this one never did. It dug a little depression into one corner when it was younger, but since molting out of that stage, it always stays on top and does some webbing. Phormix can live a decent length of time, about 15 years or so, and even well beyond. I saw on arachno boards that a very prominent arachnologist had a P. cancerides specimen that was around 24 years old. Most Phormictopus can reach generally about 7 to 8 inches, making them one of the larger genera in the tarantula world.
Okay, so there you have it. That was a really successful rehousing. That's about as smooth as it can go. That actually would have probably been a much shorter video if not for the husbandry and background that I provided there. But there's a little bit more for your money in this video. Hopefully you learned something and you enjoyed it. Now, before we end, I just want to take a moment to thank a few people who have helped me to get established in this hobby. I first want to thank Tanya Stewart and the entire Fear Not Tarantulas team. They've provided the overwhelming majority of teas in my collection. They always provide stellar service and healthy spiderlings. If you're ordering teas, you just can't go wrong with Fear Not. There is a link in the description below, and if you are a member of the Tarantula Collective, there's also a discount code on their page for 10% off your order. Next, and perhaps above all, I know this guy gets a lot of accolades in this hobby, but I'm gonna add on. I want to thank Tom Moran of Tom's Big Spiders, who has always taken time to answer my questions as completely and as patiently as possible. His very educational videos and podcasts have made it so much easier and more enjoyable for me to keep these spiders. And he also personally encouraged me to take the leap and start this channel. So I want to thank him for all of that. Tom, if you're watching, brother, I owe you a bottle of scotch one day. You name the label, tell me where to send it. It's yours. Thanks for everything. Also want to thank the folks in the two Facebook groups that I frequent, the Tarantula Community and of course the Tarantula Collective, and those YouTubers other than Tom. Richard Stewart of the Tarantula Collective, very helpful. If you haven't seen his channel, you gotta watch it. Tarantula Tuesdays are great. Also Tarantula Cat, Mark's Tarantulas from over in the UK, and Petco of the Dark Den, of course, and Alex at Tarantula Haven. Also want to thank Michael McClister. You guys might know him as Natalie's dad from Natalie's Eight-Legged Journey. He's just a really decent and generous guy. Helped me out with my first breeding experience. He did the breeding, not me, but I also got a beautiful T. albopilosus out of the deal. So thanks to him, and shout out to my man Obi Golady up in Warren, Ohio, not too far away from me, for all the great tarantulas and knowledge he's dropped on me. Also, if you like my t-shirt, it says Tarantula Addict Club. It's from Everything Exotic, designed by Carlo Turek. I'll put a link to his website in there in the description, so you can get your own Pierre Minia t-shirt or check out all the other cool stuff he designs. This is the first video on this channel, though not necessarily the first one I've shot. It was an intro video. There was a lot to say. Most will be shorter than this. So please be sure, if you liked it, to stay tuned for more content. Like if you want, or don't like, and let me know why. That helps me be a better keeper and make better videos. I've got an unboxing video coming up, and a special teaching moment to share with you all after that. Everyone, please stay safe and healthy. Be sure to wear your masks. I'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in to Indra's Web.